The moment the HOA security guard put his hands on me, I knew he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Because my wife Sarah is Delta Force, and she doesn't tolerate bullies. My name is Barbara Chun, and I've lived in Riverside Heights with my wife Sarah for 3 years. The HOA president, Karen Morrison, had always been strict, but lately things had gotten out of control. It started on a Saturday morning in March. I was unloading groceries when Dale, the HOA's head of security, rolled up in his golf cart. Dale was a wannabe cop who'd washed out of the police academy and now took his authority way too seriously. He wore a ridiculous uniform and carried a walkie-talkie like a weapon. "Ma'am, you're parked in a loading zone," Dale announced. Barbara looked up from her groceries, confused. I glanced at the curb. There was no loading zone designation anywhere. "Dale, I'm parked in front of my own house unloading groceries. I'll be done in 5 minutes. HOA regulations state that all vehicles must be parked in designated areas at all times." "You're in violation!" He pulled out his citation book. "There is no loading zone marking here. I'm literally in front of my own driveway." Dale's face reddened. "Are you arguing with me? Because I can escalate this to President Morrison." She gave me authority to enforce all parking regulations. I took a deep breath. Sarah had warned me about Dale. He'd cited her for jogging after hours, for parking with the garage door open, for washing our car in our driveway. "Dale, just give me 5 minutes to finish, and I'll move the car." "Too late. You admitted violation." He started writing a citation. "How much is this fine?" $250 for first offense. "That's insane for parking 5 minutes. Dale looked up from his citation book with a smug smile. "Maybe you should have thought about that before breaking the rules." President Morrison takes violations very seriously. She expects everyone to comply. Barbara clenched her fists in frustration. "Dale, I've seen you park your golf cart, blocking the sidewalk for hours. I've seen you park in handicapped spots, but somehow those aren't violations." Dale stepped closer, his face now inches from mine. "You want to file a complaint? Go ahead. President Morrison and I have an understanding." She backs me up 100%. "You military types think you can do whatever you want, but this is my community to protect." That's when it happened. Dale reached out and grabbed my arm, hard pushing me backward away from the car. "Don't touch me!" I snapped, pulling my arm free. "You're being aggressive and hostile," Dale said loudly, clearly performing for some invisible audience. "I'm going to have to detain you for threatening behavior toward HOA security personnel." He reached for my arm again. That's when I heard the front door open. "Get your hands off my wife." Sarah's voice was calm, controlled, and absolutely terrifying. She stood on our front porch wearing workout clothes, her arms crossed, her expression neutral, but her eyes promising violence. Barbara looked toward Sarah with relief. Dale turned and scoffed. "Ma'am, this is official HOA business. Please go back inside." Sarah walked down the porch steps slowly, deliberately. I said, "Get your hands off my wife." "Or what?" Dale puffed out his chest. "You going to assault me? That'll be a criminal charge, sweetie." Sarah smiled, a friendly smile, the kind of smile that would make most people very nervous. "Dale, I'm going to give you one more chance to walk away. Apologize to my wife for putting your hands on her, tear up that ridiculous citation, and leave." "I don't take orders from you," Dale sneered. "I've dealt with tough guys before. Just because you were in the army or whatever doesn't mean Delta Force," Sarah corrected quietly. "I was Delta Force operator for 8 years, but that's not relevant right now. What's relevant is that you assaulted my wife in front of our home, and you're about to have a very bad day if you don't walk away." Dale laughed, actually laughed. "Delta Force? Sure you were, honey. And I'm a Navy SEAL. Look, I don't care what stolen valor story you're selling, but in this community, I'm the authority. President Morrison put me in charge of security, and he didn't get to finish the sentence. Sarah moved so fast I almost didn't see it. One moment, she was standing 5 feet away from Dale. The next moment, Deli was face down on the pavement, with his arm twisted behind his back, at an angle that looked extremely painful, but probably wasn't quite dislocated. Sarah's knee was on his spine, and her other hand had removed his walkie-talkie, citation book, and keys. Barbara's eyes widened in shock and slight satisfaction. "Here's what's going to happen, Dale," Sarah said in the same calm voice. "You're going to apologize to my wife, then you're going to walk back to your golf cart and drive away. And you're never going to come near our property again. If you do, I'll file assault charges against you for putting your hands on Barbara. Do we have an understanding? Get off me. This is assault. I'll have you arrested." President Morrison with Sarah applied slightly more pressure to Dale's arm. He yelped, "Apologize to my wife? I'm sorry." "I'm sorry," Dale gasped. "Let me go." Sarah released him and stood up. Dale scrambled to his feet, his face red with humiliation and pain, his uniform covered in dirt. "Now leave," Sarah said simply. Dale stumbled toward his golf cart, muttering threats about calling the police and reporting this to Karen Morrison. He sped away, nearly hitting a mailbox in his hurry to escape. I stood there, still processing what had just happened. Sarah walked over and wrapped her arm around me. "You okay?" she asked, her voice suddenly gentle. "I'm fine." That was ... impressive. That was necessary. Nobody touches you. Ever. Sarah kissed my forehead. "Come on, let's finish unloading groceries." We'd just carried the last bags into the kitchen when there was a loud, aggressive knock on our front door. Sarah opened it to find Karen Morrison standing on our porch, flanked by 2 uniformed police officers. Karen was in her early 60s, with severe features and the kind of rigid posture that suggested she'd never relaxed in her entire life. She wore an expensive pantsuit and held a tablet like it was a weapon. Barbara crossed her arms defensively. "Mrs. Shun, you and your wife are under arrest for assault," Karen announced triumphantly. "Officers, these are the women who attacked our security guard." One of the officers, older and experienced, held up his hand. "Ma'am, we're not making arrests. We're investigating." "Can we talk?" Sarah nodded. "Of course. Would you like to see our doorbell camera footage showing Dale grabbing my wife first?" The officer's eyebrows went up. "You have footage? Crystal clear." "Dale put hands on my wife first. I used appropriate force, then released him." Karen's confident expression faltered slightly. "That's not what Dale told me. He said your wife attacked him unprovoked when he was simply issuing a parking." Sarah pulled out her phone and connected it to our TV. Within seconds, the security footage was playing. The officers watched silently as Dale grabbed me, as I pulled away, as he reached for me again, as Sarah intervened and restrained him, as she released him, and us left. The older officer turned to Karen. "Ma'am, your guard committed assault. If anyone gets charged, it's him." Mrs. Chun defended her spouse. "That's ridiculous," Karen sputtered. "Dale has authority. His job doesn't include touching residents," the officer said firmly. "HOA Security has no legal authority to detain anyone." Barbara smiled slightly, feeling vindicated. The younger officer was still watching the footage. "Is that a Delta Force tattoo on your arm, ma'am?" he asked Sarah. Sarah nodded. "Served 8 years. Got out in 2022. "Thank you for your service," both officers said almost simultaneously. The older one added, "My brother was Army Rangers, worked with Delta operators in Afghanistan." "You folks are the real deal." Karen looked furious. "Are you seriously not going to arrest them?" "No, ma'am. There's no crime here. Your security guard assaulted a resident. If anything, she has grounds to press charges against him. I want to file a formal complaint against the HOA security guard, Dale Martinez," Sarah said calmly, "and I want a restraining order prohibiting him from coming near our property." The older officer nodded. "We can help you with that. I'd also recommend filing a civil complaint with the HOA board about his conduct." After the police left, Karen stood on our porch, shaking with rage. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Dale works for me. He follows my orders, and I will make both of your lives miserable until you move out of Riverside Heights. Nobody defies me in my community." Sarah stepped forward. Karen instinctively stepped back. "Karen, let me make something very clear. I spent 8 years operating in hostile territory against people who were actually dangerous. You're a retired real estate agent on a power trip. You don't scare me. Your pet security guard doesn't scare me. And if you continue to harass my wife, I will make it my personal mission to expose every violation, every abuse of authority, and every illegal action you've committed as HOA president. I have resources, I have training, and I have a very particular set of skills that make me excellent at gathering intelligence. Do we understand each other?" Barbara watched Karen's face turn multiple shades of red. Karen opened her mouth, closed it, then spun on her heel and stormed off our porch. I turned to Sarah. "Do you really have evidence of her doing illegal things?" "Not yet," Sarah grinned. "But give me a week. If she's this controlling and vindictive, there's no way she's running a clean HOA operation. People like her always have something to hide." That night, Sarah set up her laptop and started digging into HOA records. "Look at this," Sarah said after 2 hours. "Karen's been president 7 years. HOA fees increased 65%. But nothing's improved. Pool outdated, clubhouse not renovated, landscaping worse." Barbara leaned in to look at the screen. "So where's the money going?" "That's the question, and I'm going to find the answer." Over the next 3 days, Dale stayed away. But Karen Escalate received violations for everything. Grass too tall, garage door open too long, decorations displayed past date. Each fine ranged from $100 to $400. In 3 days, Karen hit us with $2,300 in fines. "This is retaliation," I said. Sarah focused on her laptop. It is. And it's evidence. I've been talking to residents Karen's targeted. There's a pattern. She drives families out who questioned her. At least 12 in 5 years. Can we prove that? I'm working on it. But there's something bigger here, Barb. I found a vendor company that's been doing work for the HOA for the past 4 years. Morrison Property Services. Guess who owns it? Karen? Her son, Tyler Morrison. And the HOA has paid Morrison Property Services over $400,000 for landscaping, maintenance, and security services. But I drove around the community yesterday. I didn't see any Morrison Property Services trucks. I didn't see any evidence of $400,000 worth of work. So where did the money go? Barbara's eyes widened with understanding. She's stealing from the HOA. I think so. But I need proof. And I need to talk to people who might have evidence. The next morning, while Sarah was interviewing neighbors, a black BMW pulled up. A man in his 30s got out wearing an expensive suit. "Barbara Chun. I'm Tyler Morrison, President Morrison's son. We need to talk about your wife's behavior." Barbara stood alert. "What about it?" "She's harassing board members, asking intrusive questions about finances. My mother asked me to deliver a message if Sarah doesn't stop, things get difficult for you." "Is that a threat?" Tyler smiled coldly. "It's a promise. My mother has connections. Legal, political. She can make your lives hell. And Dale wants revenge. He's talking criminal charges. Your wife could go to jail. Your mother's pet security guard assaulted me first. We have video evidence. Evidence can be interpreted different ways, especially when the person reviewing it is sympathetic to the right side." Tyler leaned in closer. "Here's what's going to happen. You and your wife are going to pay all outstanding fines. You're going to stop asking questions, and you're going to mind your own business. If you don't, that will let this whole thing slide. If you don't He let the threat hang in the air. Barbara's hands trembled not with fear, but with anger. I was about to respond when I heard our garage door opening. Sarah walked out, and Tyler immediately stepped back. "Tyler Morrison," Sarah said pleasantly. "I was hoping to run into you. We need to talk about Morrison Property Services and the $400,000 your company has received from the HOA over the past 4 years." Tyler's confident expression cracked slightly. "That's legitimate business. We provide services to the community." "Really?" "Because I can't find any evidence of those services. No work orders, no completion reports, no inspection records, just checks written from the HOA account to your company. That's called embezzlement." "Tyler, you're crazy. My mother would never—" "Your mother runs a fraud scheme using the HOA as her bank. You're helping." "I have evidence, financial records, testimony. I'm taking it to authorities." Tyler's face reddened. "You don't know what you're dealing with. My mother has powerful friends." Sarah smiled dangerously. "Tyler, I've dealt with warlords and terrorists. Your mom is a suburban HOA president. She doesn't scare me. Leave our property in 10 seconds or I'm calling police for trespassing." Tyler stared, trying to intimidate her. Whatever he saw made him walk back to his BMW. Before leaving, he called, "You'll regret this. Both of you." As Tyler's car disappeared down the street, Sarah turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before. Part determination, part barely controlled rage. "Barb, this is bigger than we thought. Karen and Tyler are running a serious fraud operation, and they're not going to let us expose it without a fight. Things are about to get dangerous, really dangerous. And I need to know right now, are you with me on this? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. Have you ever dealt with an abusive HOA president? Drop your story in the comments. And if you want to see how Sarah takes down Karen's entire fraud operation, make sure you're subscribed, and trust me, you won't believe what Sarah discovers when she starts digging deeper. This is about to get intense. Are you with me on this? Sarah's question hung in the air between us. I looked at my wife, this woman who'd served 8 years in the most elite special operations unit in the world, who'd faced actual terrorists and warlords, and who was now asking if I was ready to take on a corrupt HOA president. "I'm with you," I said without hesitation. "Always?" Barbara squeezed Sarah's hand, determined and ready. Sarah nodded once, then pulled out her phone. Good. Because we're going to need help. I'm calling in some favors." Over the next 48 hours, Sarah transformed our dining room into a command center. She'd contacted former Delta operators in investigations and forensic accounting. Within 2 days, we had massive intelligence on Karen Morrison. "Look at this pattern," Sarah said, pointing to her whiteboard. "Karen became president 7 years ago. She appointed Dale Martinez as head of security, her nephew. Then created 3 vendor companies: Morrison Property Services, owned by her son Tyler; Riverside Security Solutions, owned by Dale's brother; Elite Landscape Design, registered to a shell company, tracing to Karen's sister. So, it's a family operation. Exactly, all 3 companies received over $900,000 in 7 years. But there's no evidence of that work. Landscaping is mediocre. Security's a joke." Barbara's eyes widened with anger. "Where'd the money go?" Sarah pulled up bank statements. Tyler bought a yacht. $375,000. Karen's sister bought a Scottsdale vacation home. $420,000. Dale's brother bought a Porsche. $98,000. The Morrisons lived large on HOA funds. Can we prove the money came from HOA fraud? Working on it. I talked to 37 residents. 12 driven out by Karen's harassment. 23 still here and terrified. Karen doesn't just find people, she ruins them. False police reports. Rumors makes their lives hell. That's systematic intimidation. It is illegal. But Karen has connections, donated to politicians. Friends with police chief. We need federal authorities who can't be influenced. As if on cue, Sarah's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. "Mrs. Chun, This is attorney Michael Bradford. I represent Karen Morrison and the Riverside Heights Homeowners Association. I'm calling to inform you that you and your wife are being sued for defamation, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. You have 24 hours to cease all investigative activities and issue a written apology, or we're filing a lawsuit seeking $500,000 in damages. Sarah's expression didn't change. Attorney Bradford, you should know that everything we've discovered about Karen Morrison's fraud scheme is documented with evidence. If you proceed with this frivolous lawsuit, I'll personally ensure that all of our findings are submitted to the court as part of our defense. That means Karen's financial crimes become part of the public record. Is that really what you want? There was a long pause. Mrs. Chun, I strongly advise you to back down. My client has powerful allies. This won't end well for you. Your client has been stealing from hundreds of families for 7 years. I'm a Delta Force veteran who's dealt with actual threats. Your attempt at intimidation is noted and recorded. Have a good day, counselor. Sarah hung up. I stared at her. Did you really just threaten a lawyer? I didn't threaten him. I informed him of consequences. There's a difference. Sarah made another call. Time to call in the big guns. Barbara watched as Sarah dialed, impressed by her calm confidence. 20 minutes later, we video-called Special Agent Rachel Kim, FBI white-collar crime. Sarah had served with Rachel's husband in Delta. Sarah, quite a case, Rachel said. 900,000 fraud, systematic intimidation, witness tampering. This is organized crime. Can you investigate? Yes. But might take months. Meanwhile, Karen will escalate. Prepared. We are. I'm opening a federal investigation. Send everything. And Sarah, watch your back. After the call ended, I felt simultaneously relieved and terrified. We'd escalated this to federal authorities, which meant we were protected. But it also meant we'd become targets. The next morning confirmed my fears. I woke up to find our car completely destroyed with spray-painted profanity covering every surface. All 4 tires were slashed. The windshield cracked. Someone had thrown dozens of eggs at our house. The dried yolk streaking down the siding, and taped to our front door was a threatening note in block letters. Leave Riverside Heights, or you'll regret it. Barbara stood in her driveway, staring at the extensive vandalism in disbelief and growing anger. Sarah walked out, surveyed the damage methodically, and pulled out her phone to photograph everything from multiple angles. Evidence, she said calmly. Her military training evident. We're documenting everything. Our neighbor Tom Henderson came over, looking upset. Barbara, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I heard the commotion around 3 a.m, but by the time I looked out the window, Tay where he gone. I think it was Dale and a couple other guys. Did you see faces? Sarah asked. No, but I saw the golf cart. HOA Security. Sarah called the police. 2 officers arrived, the same ones who'd come about Dale's assault. The older officer, whose name tag read Martinez, looked at the damage and shook his head. This is escalating, he said. I'm going to file a report, but I have to be honest with you. Proving who did this without video evidence is difficult. We have video, Sarah said, pulling up our doorbell camera footage on her phone. The video showed 3 figures in dark clothing spray painting our car. The image quality wasn't perfect, but you could make out Dale's distinctive build and gait. Officer Martinez watched the footage. That's Dale Martinez, no question. I'm filing criminal mischief charges. We'll bring him in for questioning. But when the police went to Dale's apartment, he was gone. His neighbor said Dale had packed up and left town the night before. His phone went straight to voicemail. He'd vanished. Karen told him to run, Sarah said after the police left. She's protecting her people. So what do we do now? We keep digging, and we prepare for whatever Karen throws at us next. What Karen threw at us was worse than vandalism. 3 days later, I came home from grocery shopping to find Sarah waiting with a grave expression. She handed me an official-looking legal document with court seals and signatures. Emergency restraining order. Sarah explained, her jaw tight with frustration. Karen filed it this morning, claiming we've been stalking her, threatening her, and causing her severe emotional distress. The judge granted a temporary order without even hearing our side. We're not allowed within 500 feet of Karen or her property. Barbara's hands trembled as she read through the document's legal language. But our house is only 3 streets away from hers. How are we supposed to avoid her in our own neighborhood? We'd have to take ridiculous routes just to get to the mailbox. That's exactly the point. She's trying to make it impossible for us to live here normally. And there's more. Sarah pulled up an email on her phone, scrolling through the hostile message. The HOA board, all of whom are Karen's handpicked, appointed unanimously to fine us $35,000 for creating a hostile environment and defaming board members. If we don't pay within 30 days, they're putting a lien on our house. I felt the walls closing in. They can't do that. That's extortion. It is, but the HOA bylaws give them broad authority to levy fines. We'll fight it, but it'll take time. In the meantime, Karen's strategy is clairvoyance in legal problems until we give up or go broke. Barbara sat down, overwhelmed by the attacks. Maybe we should just move, I said quietly. This isn't worth it. Sarah knelt in front of me and took my hands. Barb, if we move, Karen wins. She gets away with $900,000 in fraud. She continues victimizing other families. And she learns that intimidation works. Is that what you want? No. But I'm scared. These people are vicious. They are. But you know what? I've faced vicious before. I've dealt with people who wanted to kill me, not just sue me. And I'm still here. We're going to beat them, Barb. We just have to be smarter and tougher. I took a deep breath. Okay. What's our next move? We go on the offensive. Karen thinks she can intimidate us with lawsuits and restraining orders. She's about to learn what happens when you threaten a Delta operator's family. That night, Sarah disappeared into her home office. I could hear her on the phone, making call after call. When she finally emerged at 2 in the morning, she looked exhausted but satisfied. I've got something, she said. Karen made a mistake. She's been using HOA funds to pay her lawyer attorney Bradford, who just threatened us. That's embezzlement. You can't use HOA money for personal legal defense, especially when you're being investigated for defrauding the HOA. How did you find out? I have a friend who works at the bank. She pulled the HOA account records completely legally as part of a federal investigation. 3 payments to Bradford's law firm in the past week, totaling $48,000, all from HOA funds. Karen is committing new crimes while being investigated for old ones. Barbara's expression shifted from fear to vindication. That's incredibly stupid of her. It is, but it's also our weapon. I'm sending this to Agent Kim right now. This gives the FBI grounds to freeze the HOA accounts and possibly arrest Karen immediately. The next morning, Special Agent Rachel Kim called with news. Sarah, the new evidence you sent is gold. We're moving up our timeline. We're executing search warrants to mark Karen's house, Tyler's house, the HOA office, and all the shell companies. We're also freezing all accounts connected to the fraud. Can you and Barbara make yourselves available to give statements? Absolutely, Sarah said. One more thing. We traced Dale Martinez. He fled to Mexico, but we've alerted Mexican authorities. He won't be hiding for long. After the call, Sarah turned to me with a fierce smile. Kara doesn't know what's coming. By this time tomorrow, her entire operation will be shut down. But Karen had one more card to play. That evening, as Sarah and I were making dinner, there was a knock at the door. Sarah looked through the peephole and her expression darkened. It's Tyler Morrison, and he's not alone. Barbara moved away from the door, suddenly afraid. Through the window, I could see Tyler standing on our porch with 2 large men in suits. They looked like private security or... Where's Sarah opened the door, but kept the security chain on. Tyler, what do you want? We need to talk. My mother is willing to make a deal. You drop the investigation, we drop the lawsuits and fines, and everyone walks away. Not interested. You should be, because if you don't accept this offer, things are going to get very unpleasant for you. My associates here are professionals. They handle problems for people who can afford their services. You understand what I'm saying? Sarah smiled that dangerous smile I'd come to recognize. Tyler, are you threatening me with violence? On my own property, while I'm recording this conversation? Tyler's confident expression faltered. I'm not threatening anything. I'm just explaining reality. Here's reality. Tyler, the FBI is executing search warrants on your mother's house tomorrow morning. They're seizing all accounts connected to your fake companies. By noon tomorrow, you'll be under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and now thanks to this conversation, witness intimidation. Your associates can't help you. Your mother's lawyers can't help you. Nothing can help you. You're done. You're bluffing. Am I? Want to bet your freedom on it? Tyler stared at Sarah for a long moment. Whatever he saw in her eyes made him take a step back. He turned to his associates and muttered something. The three of them walked back to Tyler's BMW and drove away. Barbara let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. I was shaking. Did that really just happen? Did Tyler Morrison just try to threaten us with hired muscle? He did, and he just handed us more evidence. That doorbell camera caught everything: the threat, the intimidation, the attempt to obstruct justice. Tyler just made this case even easier to prosecute. Sarah immediately called Agent Kim and sent her the video. Kim's response was swift. We're adding witness, tampering, and intimidation to the charges. Tyler Morrison is going to federal prison. That night, neither of us slept. We knew tomorrow would change everything. At exactly 7 in the morning, I watched from our window as 6 black FBI SUVs rolled into Riverside Heights in perfect formation. Federal agents poured out, surrounding Karen's mansion from all sides. Some carried empty boxes for evidence collection. Others held search warrants high. It was the same dramatic scene we'd witnessed months ago in my previous neighborhood. But this time we were the ones who'd made it happen, who'd brought federal justice to our doorstep. Barbara stood at the window, watching justice unfold with satisfaction and relief. Karen came out of her house in her bathrobe, screaming at the agents, demanding to see warrants, threatening to call her lawyers and the governor. The agents professionally ignored her theatrics and continued their methodical work. An hour later, Tyler's house was similarly swarmed. Then the HOA office, then the addresses for all 3 shell companies. By noon, Sarah's phone rang. It was Agent Kim. We got them. All of them. Karen Morrison, Tyler Morrison, and 3 other family members are in custody. We seized over $1.2 million in assess-gassed vehicles, property. We found evidence of systematic fraud going back 7 years. This is a major win. Sarah, you did this? As we celebrated the arrests, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her face went pale. The message was simple but terrifying. Karen and Tyler are just the beginning. You exposed the small operation. Now you've caught the attention of the people running the real scamand. They want to meet you. Tonight. Alone. Or everyone you love starts disappearing. Below the text was a photo of our house taken from across the street, with a red circle around me standing in the window. Can you believe Tyler tried to intimidate a Delta Force operator? What would you do in Barbara and Sarah's situation? Drop your thoughts below. Make sure you're subscribed, because who's really behind this fraud operation? And trust me, it goes way deeper than anyone expected. You won't want to miss what happens next. This isn't Karen or Tyler, I whispered. They're in FBI custody. Sarah's expression was unreadable. This is someone bigger. Someone using Karen's fraud as part of a larger operation. Barbara's hands trembled. What do we do? Don't panic. And definitely don't meet them alone. Sarah, called Agent Kim. Rachel, we received a credible threat. Someone claims Karen and Tyler were the small operation. Agent Kim responded immediately. Forward that text. Now, don't go anywhere. Protection detail arriving in 30 minutes. While waiting, Sarah analyzed the message. Photo taken from that empty house for sale. Professional surveillance. Military-grade equipment. Who has that equipment? Private military contractors, former intelligence. Sarah studied her screen. Remember Karen donated to local politicians? I cross-referenced her donations. She donated to the same 5 candidates as Sentinel Property Group. A firm managing over 200 investigated 3 times for fraud. Never charged. Barbara leaned in. Sentinel's behind this. I think Sentinel recruited Karen. Her operation was too sophisticated. Shell companies, money laundering, that needs expertise. What if Sentinel provides a fraud blueprint, identifies corrupt presidents, teaches them to steal, takes a cut? My mind reeled. This could be hundreds of communities. Exactly. We exposed Karen, threatened their entire operation. That's why they're after us. Within 20 minutes, 4 FBI agents arrived. Agent Kim looked serious. We traced the burner phone. Triangulated to within half-mile of your neighborhood. Whoever sent this is close. Barbara moved from windows, feeling exposed. Can you trace Sentinel? Sarah asked. Agent Kim pulled out her tablet. Already on it. Sentinels owned by shell companies eventually trace us to Marcus Reeves. Former CIA, discharged 15 years ago. Classified circumstances. Now runs consulting businesses' money laundering fronts. CIA, Sarah muttered, explains the surveillance. It worsens. We arrested Karen and Tyler this morning, within 2 hours. Both had $50,000 attorneys on retainer. With Sentinel, Karen and Tyler are just employees. I felt sick. We're dealing with organized crime. With intelligence training and unlimited resources, Agent Kim confirmed. You're going into protective custody, safe house tonight. No, Sarah said firmly. If we run, Sentinel wins. They'll eliminate evidence, threaten witnesses, disappear. We need to draw them out. Sarah, they threatened to kill you. They want information. What evidence we have? What we told FBI. We can use that. Barbara's eyes widened in alarm. Agent Kim shook her head. Not using you as bait. I'm volunteering. Rachel, you owe me Syria. I saved your husband when his unit was pinned. You said you'd back me any time. I'm calling in that favor. Long silence. Finally, Agent Kim sighed. Tell me your plan. 2 hours later, as the sun set over Riverside Heights, Sarah walked alone into the empty house across the street from Ours A house, where the threatening photos had been taken. She wore a hidden wire, and FBI agents were positioned in 3 surrounding houses with sniper support on 2 rooftops. I watched from our window, my heart pounding, as Sarah disappeared through the front door of the empty house. Barbara pressed her hands against the window, terrified and helpless. Inside, Sarah found Marcus Reeves sitting in darkness. 50s, fit, dangerous bearing. Mrs. Chun. Thank you for coming. I came alone. What do you want? Understand something. Karen generated $300,000 yearly for my organization, times 200 HOAs, $60 million annually. You cost me one of my producers. Sarah remained standing. Ready? You're running nationwide HOA fraud, using former intelligence to train corrupt presidents. Marcus smiled. Very good. Delta Force training showing. You understand how this works. I have resources you can't imagine. People in law enforcement. Leverage on politicians. Assets that make problems disappear. FBI thinks they have a case. Karen and Tyler know nothing about me. All communication encrypted, now erased. They can't connect me. The FBI already knows about Sentinel Property Group. Sentinel is one of 40 companies I control. By tomorrow, Sentinel won't exist. The shell companies will be dissolved. The records will be I'll be operating under a new name in a new state. You can't stop me, Mrs. Chun. No one can. Barbara watched through binoculars as Sarah remained calm inside the dark house. Then why am I here? I'm offering a choice. You and your wife walk away. Forget everything. In exchange, I leave you alone. And if I refuse, Marcus walked closer. Then I make you a priority. Your wife Barbara vanishes first. Then friends. Family members, one by one. After you've lost everyone, then I come for you. That's quite a threat. It's a promise. I've eliminated bigger problems. Delta Force operators have weaknesses. You care about people. That's your weakness. Sarah laughed, genuinely. Marcus, you made 3 fatal mistakes. First, you assumed I came alone. FBI agents surround us, snipers on roofs. Second, you used the same encrypted platform the CIA used in Afghanistan. I recognized it. There are records. Third, you threatened my wife. That made this personal. I've tracked terrorist cells in hostile territory. You're just another target. Marcus reached inside his jacket. Red laser dots appeared on his chest. Don't move, Sarah said. FBI snipers. Pull that weapon. You're dead. Door burst open. Agents flooded in. Marcus face down, zip-tied. Agent Kim Endert. Marcus Raibs, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, money laundering, witness intimidation. As agents led Marcus away, he looked back at Sarah with cold hatred in his eyes. This won't stop anything. I'm one person. The organization is bigger than me. There are others who will continue this work. Then I'll take down the organization, Sarah said simply, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. One person at a time, if necessary. That's what I do. Barbara ran across the street and grabbed Sarah in a tight, disparate embrace, tears streaming down her face. Don't ever do that again, I said, my voice shaking with relief and residual fear. I thought I was going to lose you. I watched you walk into that house, and I couldn't do anything. Not a chance. I've survived worse, way worse. Agent Kim approached us with her tablet, her expression a mixture of triumph and exhaustion. Sarah, while you were in there playing hero, my team executed search warrants on Marcus's main office, his home residence, and 3 additional properties he owns under shell companies. We found evidence of fraud schemes in 47 states. Over 500 HOAs compromised, financial documents, communications, training materials for corrupt HOA presidents. We're estimating total theft of over $200 million across a decade of operations. Barbara's jaw dropped. $200 million. This is the biggest HOA fraud bust in U.S. history. And it's all because you two wouldn't back down. Marcus was right about one thing: most people would have given up or run. But you fought back. You exposed the whole network. Over the next 2 weeks, the arrests continued in a coordinated nationwide sweep. 17 corrupt HOA presidents across 12 states were taken into custody, each one part of Marcus's network. 8 Sentinel Property Group employees were arrested for fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. Marcus Reeves's criminal organization unraveled rapidly as former employees, facing decades in federal prison, turned witness in exchange for reduced sentences. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus had kept meticulous records ironically. His intelligence training had made him document everything for operational security, and those same documents now condemned him. Bank transfers, encrypted communications that FBI cybersecurity teams cracked, training manuals on how to embezzle HOA funds without detection, lists of corrupt politicians who'd been bribed. Karen Morrison and Tyler Morrison both accepted plea deals after their expensive lawyers realized the mountain of evidence made trial suicide. They agreed to testify against Marcus and his entire organization. Karen received 12 years in federal prison and was ordered to forfeit all assets. Tyler received 15 years. Dale Martinez was extradited from Mexico after 3 weeks of hiding and received 8 years for assault, conspiracy, and fleeing prosecution. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit recovered over $80 million in stolen assets through seizures, asset forfeitures, and frozen accounts. The money was distributed back to the victimized HOA communities across the country. Riverside Heights received $3.2 million, the full amount that had been stolen over 7 years, plus accumulated interest and penalties. The HOA Bodgarin's entire corrupt administration was dissolved. New elections were held. A retired military colonel named James Watkins was elected president, running on a platform of transparency and accountability. 2 months after Marcus's arrest, James knocked on our door with news. "Barbara, Sarah, I wanted you both to know the HOA voted unanimously to waive all the fraudulent fines Karen levied against you. We're also voting to give you both a formal commendation for exposing the corruption, and we'd like to name the community center after you." Barbara smiled, finally feeling vindicated. "That's incredibly kind, but we don't need a building named after us." "Then how about this?" James continued. "We're creating a new HOA position, community security advisor. It's a paid position overseeing all security operations and financial oversight. Sarah, we'd like to offer you the job." Sarah looked surprised. "Me? Who better than someone who can spot fraud from a mile away and who has the skills to protect residents? Plus, after what you did, every resident in Riverside Heights trusts you completely." Sarah looked at me. I nodded. She turned back to James. "I accept, but I'm going to make this the most secure, most transparent HOA in the country. No more corruption, no more a fraud, no more bullies." That's exactly what we want. 3 months later, life in Riverside Heights had completely transformed into something unrecognizable from Karen's reign of terror. The community now operated with regular independent financial audits, conducted quarterly by a certified public accounting firm, competitive bidding processes for all vendor contracts, with at least 3 quotes required, open board meetings with live streaming on the community website so residents could watch from home, complete transparency in every single decision, with all financial documents available for resident review within 24 hours of any transaction. Sarah took her new role as community security advisor incredibly seriously, implementing security protocols and financial oversight procedures that would make most military installations jealous. She conducted background checks on all vendors, installed security cameras at every entrance, created emergency response plans, and established direct communication channels between residents and local law enforcement. She also started a non-profit support network for other HOA communities across the country that suspected fraud, offering free consulting services to help them identify red flags and report corruption to proper authorities. We became somewhat famous within the growing HOA reform community nationwide. Sarah was invited to speak at industry conventions attended by thousands of property managers, to testify before state legislatures about urgent needs for HOA regulation reform, and to consult with law enforcement agencies on fraud detection techniques and investigation strategies. But the best moment, the one that made everything we'd been through worthwhile, came 6 months after Marcus's arrest and the dismantling of his criminal empire. I was checking our mail one ordinary afternoon when I found a plain white envelope with no return address. No markings except our names written in careful handwriting. Inside was a handwritten note on simple lined paper. "Mrs. Chun, you don't know me, but I live in an HOA community in Phoenix, Arizona. I saw your story on the national news coverage of the Marcus Reeves trial. My HOA president has been stealing from us for years, inflated contracts, fake vendors, the same playbook Marcus used, but I was too scared to report it, too intimidated to speak up. Your courage and your wife, Sarah's bravery inspired me to find my own strength. I contacted the FBI field office in Phoenix last week. They're investigating now, and other residents are coming forward with evidence. Thank you for showing me that ordinary people can fight back against corruption and win. You changed my life, and probably saved my community." Barbara's eyes filled with tears as she read the note. I showed Sarah the letter that evening. She read it silently, then looked at me. "We did the right thing," she said. "We almost died doing it, but we didn't. And now hundreds of other families are going to get justice because we refuse to back down. That's worth the risk." I thought about everything we'd been through: Davis's assault, Karen's harassment, Tyler's threats, Marcus's intimidation, the vandalism, the legal attacks, the fear. All of it had been terrifying. But Sarah was right. It had been worth it because we'd proven that corruption doesn't win, that bullies can be stopped, that ordinary people with courage can take on powerful criminals and win. We sat on our porch that evening, watching the sun set over Riverside Heights, enjoying the peace we'd fought so hard to achieve. Barbara leaned against Sarah, finally feeling safe and at peace. Then Sarah's phone buzzed. She looked at the message and her expression changed. "What is it?" I asked. "It's from Agent Kim. She says they just arrested someone, Elsa State Senator, who was taking bribes from Marcus's organization to block HOA reform legislation. The investigation is expanding. They're finding connections to politicians, judges, and business leaders across multiple states." "How big is this going to get?" Sarah looked at me with that familiar, dangerous smile. "Bigger than we ever imagined. Agent Kim wants to know if we're willing to help expose more corruption." "Are you seriously considering this?" "Bob, we stumbled into one fraud scheme and uncovered a nationwide criminal network. What if there are more networks like Marcus's out there? More corrupt organizations stealing from families? More people who need someone to fight for them?" Barbara felt a mix of fear and determination rising inside her. "You want to keep doing this? Keep taking on criminals. I spent 8 years fighting terrorists overseas. Now I can fight corruption at home. Use my skills to protect ordinary people instead of just following orders. What do you think?" I thought about all the families who'd been victimized by HOA fraud, about the letter from the Phoenix resident who'd found courage because of our story, about the thousands of people who needed someone to stand up for them. "I think," I said slowly, "that you're going to need help, and I'm not letting you do this alone." Sarah grinned. Partners. As we shook hands on our new mission to expose HOA corruption across the country, neither of us noticed the car parked at the end of our street with tinted windows. Inside, someone was taking photographs of our house, making notes, and reporting back to someone even more dangerous than Marcus Reeves. The organization was bigger than we knew, and we'd just made ourselves the biggest threat they'd ever faced. Can you believe how big this fraud network was? $200 million. Would you team up with Sarah to take down more corrupt HOAs? Drop your thoughts below, and make sure you're subscribed as the explosive finale where Barbara and Sarah face their biggest challenge yet. And you won't believe who's behind the car, watching their house. "Partners," I said, shaking Sarah's hand on our new mission to expose HOA corruption nationwide. Neither of us noticed the car at the end of our street, dark tinted windows, someone inside taking photographs, making notes, reporting to someone far more dangerous than Marcus Reeves. The next morning, Sarah's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. "Sarah, Chun." "Mrs. Chun, I'm Victoria Sterling. You don't know me, but I know everything about you. You took down Marcus. You exposed his operation. You think you've won." Barbara moved closer, listening intently. Sarah's expression hardened. "Who are you?" "I'm the person Marcus worked for. The person who built the infrastructure. Marcus was middle management. I'm the CEO. Another criminal threatening us. How original." Victoria laughed coldly. "I'm not threatening. I'm offering a business proposition. You have skills, Delta Force, investigation expertise. Join my organization. Name your price. I'm not helping criminals. I run over 800 HOAs, 50 states, 300 million annually. You shut down Marcus. Congratulations! You've barely touched mine. Unlike Marcus, I don't make mistakes. I'm a ghost. Sarah's jaw tightened. Every ghost leaves traces. Not me, but I respect what you did. Walk away. Forget HOA fraud. Live your life, or keep digging, and I'll systematically destroy everything you love. Slowly, over years, Barbara's hands trembled as she listened. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your email. I sent you something 5 minutes ago. Sarah pulled up her email on her laptop. Her face went pale. The email contained recent photos of her elderly parents at their home in Seattle, of my sister and her kids at school, of Agent Rachel Kim leaving FBI headquarters, all circled in red. Those are the people you care about, Victoria continued. I have assets watching all of them. Right now, today. One phone call from me, and their lives change forever. Do you really want to test me? Sarah's hands clenched into fists. If you touch any of them, you'll what? Hunt me down. Good luck finding me. I operate through layers of cutouts, encrypted communications, offshore accounts. The FBI couldn't find me in 10 years of trying. What makes you think you can? Because I'm better than the FBI at hunting people. Victoria paused. You know what? I believe you. Which is why I'm making this offer. Join me. Use your skills for profit instead of justice. I'll pay you $5 million per year, plus bonuses, plus protection for everyone you love. Never? Then you're a fool. You have 48 hours to reconsider. After that, the people in those photos start having very bad luck. Think about it. Mrs. Chun, is your crusade against HOA fraud really worth your parents' lives? The line went dead. Barbara grabbed Sarah's arm. We have to call Agent Kim right now. Already on it. Sarah was dialing before I finished speaking. Agent Kim answered immediately. Sarah, what's wrong? Bigger problem than Marcus. Victoria Sterling runs 800 HOAs nationwide. 300 million annually. Just threatened my family, Victoria Sterling. Agent Kim's voice changed. Hold on. Typing sounds. Then silence. Rachel, Sarah, Victoria's on our most wanted list. 12 years. Connected to money laundering, fraud, racketeering, 3 suspected murders. We've tried building a case for a decade. Every time we get close, witnesses disappear. She's untouchable. Not anymore. She made direct contact, threatened my family. That's witness intimidation. If we can prove it was her, but Sarah, Victoria doesn't use phones we can trace. She doesn't make mistakes. She made one. She threatened the wrong person. Barbara watched as Sarah's Delta Force training took over. Over the next 24 hours, Sarah transformed our home into an operations center again. But this time, she wasn't investigating. She was hunting. She called in every favor she had. Former Delta operators who now worked in cybersecurity analyzed the threatening email, tracing routing servers across 7 countries. Intelligence contacts accessed classified databases. Private investigators she'd worked with started surveillance on known associates of Victoria's organization. We can't wait for the FBI to build a case, Sarah explained to me. That takes months or years. Victoria will have moved on by then. We need to force her hand. Make her expose herself. How? By doing exactly what she told me not to do. We're going public. National media. We're going to expose her entire operation. Sarah, she threatened our families. Which is why we're moving them first. Your sister and her kids are going to that cabin in Montana. My parents are flying to my brother's house in Alaska. Agent Kim is arranging protective details for everyone we care about. Then we're going on offense. 2 days later, Sarah and I did a national news interview. We told everything Karen's fraud, Marcus's organization, Victoria's threats. This is about organized crime in plain sight, Sarah said. Victoria Sterling thinks she's untouchable. She's wrong. If you're watching, I'm coming for you." Barbara sat beside Sarah, adding perspective. The interview went viral. Within hours, dozens of HOA residents nationwide reported suspected fraud. Each report led to another. Over 300 potentially compromised HOAs identified. That night, Victoria called again. "You made a mistake, Mrs. Chun." "No, you made a mistake. You threatened my family. Check the news. A fire had broken out at my sister's Montana cabin." "No," I whispered. "No, no." Barbara's hands covered her mouth in horror. Sarah was already calling. The phone rang forever. Finally, my sister answered. "Barb, where are you? Okay? Where are you?" "Okay." We weren't at the cabin. Agent Kim moved us to a different location at the last minute. But the cabin? It's gone. Completely destroyed. Relief flooded through me. "You're sure you're okay?" "The kids?" "We're fine. Scared, but fine. The FBI says it was arson. Professional job." After I hung up, Sarah looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure rage, barely controlled. "She tried to kill your family. To send a message. What? We end this." Tonight, Sarah made one phone call to someone I'd never heard her mention before, Colonel Davis. "It's Sarah Chun. I need to activate Protocol 7. Whatever Protocol 7 meant, it worked fast. Within 2 hours, our house was surrounded by federal agents, not FBI, but U.S. Marshals. Military intelligence officers, people with security clearances so high they couldn't tell us who they worked for. A stern woman in her 60s, wearing a military uniform with stars on her shoulders, walked through our door. "Mrs. Chun, I'm General Patricia Lawson. I commanded the Joint Special Operations Command when you were in Delta. I've been briefed on your situation with Victoria Sterling." Barbara stood respectfully as the general entered. "General, with respect, why are you here?" "Because Victoria Sterling isn't just running HOA frauds. Our intelligence suggests she's been laundering money for international criminal organizations, drug cartels, arms dealers, terrorists, financiers. The HOA schemes are just the visible part of a much larger operation. You've given us an opportunity we haven't had in 15 years. She's exposed herself by threatening you. So what's the plan?" We trace the money. Victoria runs 800 HOAs. That means 800 money trails. Some of them lead overseas. When money crosses international borders for criminal purposes, that becomes a matter of national security. My people have been watching her organization for years. We just needed a trigger to move. You're that trigger. Over 72 hours, the largest coordinated operation in HOA fraud history unfolded. Federal agents, military intelligence, international law enforcement moved across 43 states and 12 countries. They arrested 217 people, seized over $400 million, froze accounts in 17 countries, shut down hundreds of shell companies, and traced Victoria Sterling to Dubai. Extradition took 6 weeks. Victoria was brought back in handcuffs, facing life in prison. At her arraignment, Sarah and I watched from the courthouse. Victoria looked at us. "You couldn't leave it alone." "You threatened my family," Sarah replied. "What did you expect? I thought you'd be smart enough to take the money." "We don't walk away from bullies, we stop them." Barbara stood beside Sarah, united and strong. The judge set bail at $50 million, which Victoria couldn't post, despite her vast wealth. Most of her assets were already seized. She was remanded to federal custody pending trial. As marshals led her away in chains, General Lawson approached us in the courthouse hallway. "Senora Chun, I want to personally thank you both because of your investigation and your refusal to be intimidated. We've dismantled the largest fraud and money laundering network in North American history. Over 800 communities will get their money back. Thousands of families will receive the justice they deserve. What happens now?" I asked, still processing everything. Now the trials begin. Kara Morrison, Tyler Morrison, Marcus Rabes, Victoria Sterling, and 214 others face federal prosecution. It'll take years to prosecute everyone properly, but we have overwhelming evidence. They're all going to prison for a very long time. 6 months later, the trials concluded, one by one. Karen Morrison received 17 years in federal prison. Tyler received 22 years. Marcus Reeves received 45 years. And Victoria Sterling received 3 consecutive life sentences without any possibility of parole. The recovered funds, over $400 million in total, were systematically distributed to victimized communities across the entire country. Riverside Heights received an additional $800,000 that had been traced to Victoria's organization. Our community used the recovered money to build a brand new community center with modern facilities, completely renovate both community pools, upgrade all security systems with state-of-the-art technology, and establish a comprehensive HOA fraud prevention education program that became a national model. Sarah's role as community security advisor expanded dramatically. She became a sought-after national consultant, working directly with law enforcement agencies and community organizations across the country to identify and prevent HOA fraud. She testified before congressional committees about the urgent need for federal HOA regulations and consumer protections. She trained FBI agents and state investigators on advanced fraud detection techniques and investigation strategies. I started working alongside her, handling the administrative coordination while Sarah focused on the complex investigations. Together, we helped expose fraud and corruption in over 60 communities during our first year of expanded operations. But the most meaningful moment came on a Saturday morning in November 2020, almost 2 years after Dale Martinez had first put his hands on me. We were at the new Riverside Heights Community Center, the one the residents had voted to name the Chun Justice Center despite our protests. A ceremony was being held to honor residents who'd contributed to the community. James Watkins, still serving as HOA president, stood at the podium. Barbara and Sarah Chun could have walked away at any point. When Dale assaulted Barbara, they could have moved. When Karen harassed him, they could have given up. When Marcus threatened them, they could have hidden. When Victoria tried to kill their family, they could have run, but they didn't. They fought back, and because of their courage, hundreds of communities are safer. Thousands of families have justice. Today, we honor them not just as community members, but as heroes. Barbara's eyes filled with tears as the crowd applauded. The entire community stood, applauding. I saw Tom Henderson, the neighbor who'd witnessed Dale's assault, Mrs. Martinez, the elderly woman who'd struggled to pay inflated HOA dues, dozens of residents whose lives had been made better because we'd refused to accept corruption. Sarah put her arm around me. "We did it, Barb. You did it. You're the Delta Force operator." No, we did it together. I had the skills, but you had the courage to start investigating in the first place. Without you, Karen would still be stealing. Marcus would still be operating. Victoria would still be free. That afternoon, Agent Rachel Kim stopped by our house with news. "Sarah, I wanted to give you an update. The Victoria Sterling case has expanded. Because of the evidence you helped gather, we've identified connections to 3 other major criminal organizations. We're looking at potentially 500 more arrests over the next year." 500. Primera Saide. This is bigger than anyone realized. Victoria's organization touched dozens of criminal enterprises. Your investigation didn't just stop HOA fraud. You helped dismantle multiple criminal networks. After Rachel left, Sarah and I sat on our porch, watching the sunset over Riverside Heights. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked. "Getting involved in all this?" "Not for a second. Do you?" "No. It was terrifying. But it was right." Sarah kissed my forehead. "I spent 8 years in Delta Force, serving my country. But what we did here, taking down corruption, protecting families, giving people justice, this feels like the most important thing I've ever done. What do we do next?" Keep fighting. There are thousands of HOAs across this country. Most are run honestly, but some aren't. And the families in those communities deserve someone willing to fight for them. Barbara smiled, ready for whatever came next. 2 days later, Sarah received an email from an HOA resident in Boston. They suspected their president was embezzling funds. Could Sarah help? She showed me the email. What do you think? I thought about everything we'd been through. The assault, the harassment, the threats, the fear, the danger. Then I thought about the families we'd helped, the justice we'd delivered, the criminals we'd stopped. I think I said that someone in Boston needs our help. When do we leave? Sarah grinned. That's my wife. As we started planning our next investigation, I realized something. We'd started this journey because a bullying HOA guard had put his hands on me. We'd thought we were just dealing with one corrupt president. Instead, we'd uncovered a nationwide criminal conspiracy. We'd exposed fraud totaling over $700 million. We'd helped send hundreds of criminals to prison. We'd protected thousands of families. And we were just getting started, because corruption doesn't rest, but neither do we. What an incredible journey. Barbara and Sarah took down a $700 million fraud network and brought over 400 criminals to justice. Their courage changed lives across the entire country. If this story inspired you, please subscribe and share it with others. Remember, if you see corruption in your HOA or anywhere else, don't stay silent. Report it. Investigate it. Fight back. You might just be the hero your